Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today where we're gonna dive right into the Game 2 from the Stanley Cup Final between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, as Florida was able to take another one away from Edmonton in Florida. And then we're gonna get into our second segment of the night, talking about Draisaitl's hit on Barkov and Sam Carrick's slash. Both of them received disciplinary fines, and then the other one got off scot-free, and that's kind of been a point of contention in the hockey world up today. And then our third segment will be my first edition of my mock drafts for the 2024 NHL entry draft, as I have finished it officially, and I'm going to reveal it in increments of 10, starting from 30, going all the way to number 1 overall. We're going to do it every Wednesday leading into the NHL draft. I'm pretty excited for this one, so put a lot of time and a lot of effort into doing, research for prospects every single year. I just like to do it on the side by myself. So now this year I finally have a platform to share with other people. So I'm looking forward to that. And then our fourth segment of the night, I will be going into Jim Nill and his general management moves that got him the GM of the Year award in the NHL, as that was announced today as well. Then in our fifth and final segment, I'll take us home by talking about the Game 3 between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. That will be played tomorrow night, so on Friday I'll have that game to talk about. But right now, we just got predictions and insights for you guys to go into tomorrow with some things on your mind going into tomorrow for that Game 5. But before we get into all of that, as always, if you would like to get your comments read out loud live on air by me, or if you just want to support the GSMC Sports Network in any way, use the tips and donations link right on the screen right there at the GSMCpodcast.net. It goes a long way to supporting the show, so if you guys would be so kind, it does mean a lot to us. But without further ado, we're going to get right into our first segment of the night, talking about the Panthers-Oilers Game 2 breakdown. Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers 4-1, winning their second game in a row by 3 goals. Very impressive what the Panthers have been able to do against the Oilers this series. It's really just shut down defense. We talked about that for their Game 1. And it's really coming to life again here in Game 2, and we're going to probably see that throughout the series. Alexander Barkov is probably the best defensive forward in the NHL. And then you have Aaron Ekblad, and you have Gustav Forsling. Both those guys playing at elite level defensively. Niko Mikkola, you have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you have, the entire team is really fit for exactly what the Florida Panthers need, and they're getting the results that they want from it. They decided to go very defensive, and, you got Bob in 2019. Aaron Ekblad was a number 1 overall pick in 2013. You got Gustav Forsling off the waivers. You got Oliver Ekman-Larsson in free agency last year. I mean, you built this team to do exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it at the highest level, and it's very impressive what they've been able to do. For this game breakdown, it's Bobrovsky again. I mean, what more can you say about this guy? He stops 18 of 19 shots. He is the first star of the night for the Florida Panthers. There we go. I got it officially. Sergei Bobrovsky, 18 saves, 19 shots again, 947 save percentage. What Sergei Bobrovsky was able to do on Monday night was so impressive. And, I mean, he's just been doing it all postseason long, and he continues his ways here. So 18 saves on 19 shots again for Sergei Bobrovsky. Very, very impressive. But, this is what he's been doing. And then our second star will be Evan Rodriguez, as that's Alexander Barkov, not Evan Rodriguez in that picture. That's my mistake, my apologies, but just pretend that's Evan Rodriguez in the small frame there. Evan Rodriguez gets 2 goals in this game on 2 shots on goal. He was a +1 in this game. Was very, very helpful in that third period, making the most of a couple of Evan Bouchard mistakes that Evan Rodriguez was able to capitalize off of. But with all that being said, we're going to get into our game breakdown, talk about the goals that happened here. The Oilers were the ones that got on the board first. They opened the scoring with Mattias Ekholm. He received a pass from Connor McDavid inside of the defensive zone, and he kind of just wheeled. The defenseman, you don't really expect him to make that charge to net, and he did. He had Leon Draisaitl on his other side with a cross crease set up, but he decided to take it on his own, and that proved to be the right decision as he beat Sergei Bobrovsky 5-hole, trickles into the net. It was a very impressive goal from Evan Bouchard, where the entire hockey world really was expecting a pass there to Leon Draisaitl, the superstar forward, the probably second best player on the ice, undisputed. So he looks him off, he takes the shot himself, and he scores. Very, very impressive what Mattias Ekholm was able to do here. And then it was all downhill from here for the Oilers. They gave up 4 unanswered goals after a 1-0 start, and it's so disappointing because they had this game and they had a chance, but they couldn't get the offense going. They got outshot by the Panthers by 10, 29-19, and this is kind of what happens when all things don't go your way. It was the Panthers with a beautiful zone entry. It was the Panthers with a beautiful zone entry that got their first goal of the game. It was Niko Mikkola that got the first goal. It was offensive production from the defensive player. We talk about it so often. Offensive production from the defensive player. That's what you need to win in the playoffs, and they got that. The Oilers have been getting that at the highest degree with Evan Bouchard and Mattias Ekholm scoring the goal there in the first, and then Nikola Mikkola responding right back midway through the second. Assisted by Anton Lundell and Vladimir Tarasenko. It was Tarasenko with a very impressive pass to Anton Lundell to enter the zone. And then Anton Lundell with, I think it was a backhanded pass behind his back that got to Niko Mikkola. Try saying that name 10 times fast. Niko Mikkola. It was just very impressive, and he just beat Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner looked bad in this game, and he hasn't looked good in these Stanley Cup finals. It's safe to say that Sergei Bobrovsky has won this battle without the rest of the games even needing to be played. Sergei Bobrovsky is clearly the best goaltender on the ice of the two teams, and he shows it every single game. Only 1 goal against, again, from Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, it's now 4 straight games for the Russian goaltender, letting in 1 or less goals. So impressive. A .75 goals against average in his last 4 played. I mean, what more can you say about him? And then it was in the third period that the Panthers took the lead and extended the lead by 2. It was Evan Rodriguez with an unassisted goal. It was a weird goal. He got lucky on this one. It was a blocked shot, and then it was a great bounce that led straight back to his stick. And he just beat Stuart Skinner. Skinner probably could have done better. He just watched the puck go right over his stick on his blocker side. That was definitely a goal that was for sure on Stuart Skinner. But nonetheless, you're only down by 1 now for the Oilers, and they did have opportunities, but they couldn't capitalize throughout the entire third period. That was really the story of the Oilers. They had chances, couldn't capitalize on it. And the Panthers kind of made it easy on them. I mean, they gave up a lot of penalties. When we're talking about this Edmonton Oilers team and how they win games, it's through the power play. They were 0 for 4 on the power play in this game. They had, like I said, they had opportunities, and they definitely could have put more than 1 point up on the score or on the scoreboard, but they just couldn't do it. And then it was Evan Rodriguez with his second goal of the night that extended the lead to 2, got that insurance goal for the Florida Panthers, all-important insurance goal, and it was definitely important. It was a power play goal as well, assisted by Anton Lundell and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. This was, the Oilers' power play was gonna give up 1 eventually. This game, I guess, for them is one to do it when you're already down and looking like a loss already. But I think it was 35 straight games where they killed opposition, or 35 straight power play opportunities for their opposition that they killed in a row. Very impressive what they've been able to do on the penalty kill all postseason long. I think they've only given up 2 power play goals this entire postseason, if I'm not, or now 3 power play goals, if I'm not mistaken, all postseason long. So very impressive what the Edmonton Oilers have been able to do, but just not being able to get the offense that warrants this defensive production. And it's kind of weird because it's the Edmonton Oilers here. They give up a lot of goals, but they just score more than they give up. And now recently, I mean, it doesn't look good for the Edmonton Oilers. Let me tell you this: they are playing to the Panthers' strengths, defensive minded. They're trying to beat them in breakouts, and they're not able to do it because the Panthers' forecheck is just swelling them. And it's just unfortunate for the Edmonton Oilers. They definitely had opportunities in this game, but they shot themselves in the foot a lot. They gave up six penalties. That's not how you win hockey games. Spending a sixth of the game on the PK, you're going to give up one eventually, and they do give up one. I think on the sixth opportunity, I believe this came off the back of the roughing that was called on Leon Draisaitl that we're going to be talking about in the second segment of the night. But yeah, for the Edmonton Oilers, they just got to do better by scoring goals. They got to figure out a way to beat Bobrovsky. They are still targeting him low and low pad side. We talked about it on our Monday podcast while this game was going on, that to beat Bobrovsky, you're going to need to beat him up high, and you're going to need to beat him high blocker side, more specifically. But the Edmonton Oilers haven't been able to really pressure that, haven't been able to put a focus on that. They aren't getting time to pick out their spot in the corners, or where they haven't had the puck on their stick long enough in the offensive zone to do it. So they need to play better in the offensive zone, and they need to be better playing through the neutral zone as well. But when you're playing this Florida Panthers team that is so swarming and just completely dominating you, what else are you going to do really for the Florida Panthers? They are playing such an impressive style of hockey. They got to the Stanley Cup final last year for a reason. Can the Edmonton Oilers do what the Vegas Golden Knights were able to do last year and figure out this team? The Florida Panthers have a fantastic defense, and this maybe be the unstoppable force versus the immovable object kind of theory. You have the McDavid-led Oilers offensive style of hockey, the unstoppable force, meeting the immovable object, the Sergei Bobrovsky, Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad led Florida Panthers. So it's interesting to see how it's playing out, and it is definitely going to the advantage of the Florida Panthers. So we're going to see how it plays out going even more forward into this Stanley Cup Finals. I'm excited to see Game 3 and Game 4 back in Edmonton, see if there's some life in this team once they get the crowd in their back, and maybe they could put some good performances going for the rest of the series. But that'll wrap it up for our first segment of the night, talking about the second game of the Stanley Cup Finals. Next, we'll talk about some hits that happened in the game and how chippy it got kind of midway through that game.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some loose shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We just got done finished talking about the game 2 between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers of the Stanley Cup Final. Now we're moving on to the Leon Draisaitl's hit on Alexander Barkov and the Sam Carrick slash on Dmitry Kulikov. That got both of those guys in a little bit of trouble with the league. However, only one of them took disciplinary action, and it was Sam Carrick that took the disciplinary action. But the bigger story here is Leon Draisaitl. this is the bigger story because we are talking about the two biggest names, or two of the biggest names in this entire series. Leon Draisaitl and Alexander Barkov are two of the top 4 players on these teams. So very touchy moment this was for the NHL Player Safety Committee to try to figure out what to do with this. Because here is what happened, right? Let me paint the picture for you. Leon Draisaitl definitely left his feet going in for a hit for Alexander Barkov, and he does make contact with his head, and as Alexander Barkov kind of embraces and he takes a shot with outstretched arms from Leon Draisaitl to Alexander Barkov, but it hits like the initial point of contact here and it gets up to his head, right? So what do you do if you're the NHL Player Safety Committee? Here's the problem. Alexander Barkov left the game after this and he did not return. That is the Florida Panthers' best defensive forward and potentially best player on their ice, depending on who you ask. And then it's, on the other hand, it's Leon Draisaitl, the second best player in hockey, maybe third best player. If you rate McKinnon higher than Draisaitl, that's fine. But for me, the second best player in all of hockey. So what do you do if you're the NHL Player Committee? Because this is the Stanley Cup Final, and Alexander Barkov might miss Game 3 here because of an injury. He just had to leave. So what they decided to do was not give Draisaitl a suspension, and I think that might be the right decision here. Here's the thing in this decision, and here's the thing with making a call like this. You are not... This is different than a regular season moment, and you have to take the moment into account when you're making this decision, and that's why we have a committee to make this decision instead of rules and a ruling that is the letter of the law for all situations, because there are moments that are different, right? And this is definitely a moment that's different here. Leon Draisaitl doesn't intend to injure Alexander Barkov on this play. And I think you are silly if you think that he is intending to injure anybody on this play. So intent to injure does come into effect here. And then, along with that, it is the Stanley Cup Finals. This probably is definitely a different ruling if it is in the regular season. I've definitely seen guys get suspended for hits like this in a regular season. But this isn't the regular season. There aren't 82 chances to play the game. This is the Stanley Cup Final, where you need to win 4 games or you are known as the Stanley Cup Final losers and runner-ups for the rest of eternity, and your name is cemented in the wrong side of history. For these guys, these moments in this game and being able to play means so much. And not being able to play because of a hit you made that, you could go either way with it, because he does initially make the contact to the shoulder area. I mean, you can see on a lot of these screenshots that Alexander Barkov has his face turned to the glass here, and Leon Draisaitl's neck is here, so a little bit getting into the neck area, but it's not there. It's not in the neck area, so it's hard for the NHL Player Safety Committee, and I don't envy the decision that any of them had made, because especially in Florida, this is the wrong decision in their minds. Of course it is. But in Edmonton, they're loving it. So it's hard. Now, for the fallout of this play, Alexander Barkov is still questionable for Game 3. We'll find out more tomorrow. He did skate today, which is very good news for the Florida Panthers. He did get warm-up skates in where he was in full gear. He didn't have any troubles today, so I would anticipate him playing. This is he is a top 5 player in this entire series. I forget exactly where I ranked him, but I think I had him right at that number 5 slot, if I'm not mistaken. So for the Florida Panthers, they're gonna need him, and they definitely need him back. He's been perfect as help on Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. He's played so much time for these first 2 games. I know Connor McDavid just set a record for most amount of ice time in a Stanley Cup Final by a forward with, I think he had 29 minutes in that game, which is absolutely ridiculous for a forward to do. But for Alexander Barkov, he is needed by these Florida Panthers he won the Selke Trophy for a reason, and it is a good reason. He is definitely the best defensive forward in hockey, so for him, they need him back. We'll see if he comes back. I know he is questionable for Game 3, and that could be a huge loss, but I don't anticipate him being out. I think it is kind of similar to what we're seeing in the NBA Finals with Luka Doncic being listed as questionable, but there's no way in the world that Luka Doncic misses the finals, and there's no way in the world that Alexander Barkov is going to miss the Stanley Cup final. I mean, this is what you play for your entire life, the game of hockey, to be in. So I expect him to be back. Now, talking about the other hit, Sam Carrick slash on Dmitry Kulikov. This was a little bit dirtier. However, Dmitry Kulikov gave him a run to Sam Carrick when Sam Carrick didn't have the puck. It was just a straight up interference that should have been called, and it was just completely missed by the official. So Sam Carrick runs over and gets into it a little bit with Dmitry Kulikov, ends up sending his stick into the groin area of Dmitry Kulikov. He does get sent off the ice for this. He gets 2 for slashing, and now in the aftermath he gets fined the maximum you can. It's a little bit over $2,000 with the collective bargaining agreement between these players and the association. So the NHL was able to fine him the maximum amount, and I think it is a good call. You can't be slashing a guy with a stick in his groin. That is a line. We don't cross that line. He paid the price for it. Quite literally paid the price for it. So we're gonna see Sam Carrick. He didn't get suspended. We're gonna see every guy besides maybe Alexander Barkov. A couple of injury reports as well with all of this. Darnell Nurse was listed as questionable. I didn't see him get banged up in Game 2, but he was listed questionable in the skate around this morning. So we'll see what comes from that. Maybe a little bit of addition from subtraction, but I don't know. I'm just the reporter. I don't like Darnell Nurse. I don't think he's that great of a player. He gets paid way too much money for being the level that he plays at. That's my take on it. You guys are well aware of it. But along with Darnell Nurse, I also saw that Aaron Ekblad was a full participant in morning skates this morning, which is great news for the Florida Panthers. He, of course, left for a little bit during that Game 2 with an ankle injury. I believe it was him and McDavid that got a little tied up in the back of the net on the Florida Panthers side. In that Game 2, he ended up rolling his ankle. He does return in that Game 2, and he was a full participant, so expect Aaron Ekblad to be 100% for tomorrow's Game 3 back in Edmonton. But yeah, it was a very chippy game, kind of at the end of it, but really midway through it. It was also, I believe it was Warren Foegele that had a knee-to-knee on the Florida Panthers that got him a game misconduct, and it was very warranted. That was a 5-minute major in the first period. That was kind of negated from a Oliver Ekman-Larsson trip that the Edmonton Oilers scored on a 4-on-4. But nonetheless, I believe Warren Foegele will be back in the Edmonton Oilers lineup for Game 3. I did see that they shook up their lines a little bit going into Game 3 as well. It is looking like it's going to be the same first line, but they're trying to figure out that second line, and for Game 3, they're going with Ryan McLeod, who has been on their third line for it. They're going with Ryan McLeod onto that second line next to Draisaitl on that left wing spot, and it's going to be still Dylan Holloway on that right wing slot. They have been using Evander Kane throughout most of the season up in that top 6, but have elected to go with Adam Henrique in Game 2, and then in Game 3, now they're going with Ryan McLeod. So shaking it up a little bit are the Edmonton Oilers in their line combinations, trying to figure out how to get Leon Draisaitl going, as he is a very big factor when it does come to these Edmonton Oilers, and they definitely need him, probably a little bit desperately need him to kind of perform like his regular season self, or like his Vancouver series self, where he was absolutely the front runner to win the Conn Smythe. Of course, falling off a little bit to Connor McDavid. But this Edmonton Oilers team needs to figure out how to get that offense going. Having Leon Draisaitl not suspended for the Game 3 is a huge point of emphasis for these Edmonton Oilers. Whatever you think of the hit, The Edmonton Oilers are going to use it as a, new lease on life a little bit. Having him stay in the lineup instead of being out for the game 3. I mean, without Leon Draisaitl, it would be very hard for this team to win against this Florida Panthers team, even with Connor McDavid playing at the level that he does play at. Without Leon Draisaitl, it would be so hard for them. And then you're down 3-0 if you do take a loss in that game, and that would spell depth on this on this series and on this season for the Edmonton Oilers. So they're looking forward to playing that game 3 back in Edmonton. It is an absolute must-win game for the Edmonton Oilers. You can't go down 3-0 in a series like this, especially when you have to play back in Florida twice. So we'll see how they play tomorrow. I will be giving you my picks and predictions on that in the 5th and final segment of the night. But that'll wrap it up for our talk on Leon Draisaitl and Sam Carrick's hits and what I thought about them for that game 2. We're going to move on to our 3rd segment of the night, and one that I'm excited to talk about, the 2024 Mock Draft Part 1. We're going from 30 to 21 in this one. I'm excited to get to that, so we're going to go right into our second break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're going to go right into our 3rd segment of the night talking about the 2024 mock draft. I finally finished 1 through 30 of my personal predictions, and I'm going to share them all with you. But before we get into that, once again, I would love to remind you guys that if you have any questions you would like to ask me and see me read out loud live on air, use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net if you would but without further ado, we're gonna get right into this mock draft. I skipped ahead a little bit, but here's the front screen here. Part 1 of this mock draft, 30 to 21 here. We're gonna get right into this with number 30 here. Ryder Ritchie, I have going to number 30. That would be the New York Rangers. In this mock draft here, I should actually pull up the standings, as I do kind of forget where the teams that I had these going to. Hold on. Bear with me 1 second here while I get this underway here. Yes, so Ryder Ritchie I have going to the New York Rangers. I think this is a great fit here, as Ryder Ritchie is a great winger prospect. He plays in Canada. He plays for the Prince Albert Raiders of the WHL, and he had a fantastic season with them. But most importantly is he does come alive when it comes to playoff hockey and tournament hockey. In the World Junior Classic U18s, he had 8 points in 7 games played for Team Canada U18. Last year, he had 4 goals in 6 games for the U17 Canadian White team. He last year had 55 points in 61 games in his draft minus 1 year. And then in his draft year, he has 14 points in 47 games, 19 goals in the WHL. This, of course, is the league that Connor Bedard just came from, where he kind of lit it up, kind of raised expectations. But for the WHL, what I really look at to see if are you a point per game player, and how do you play in the competitions that have kind of the entirety of the minors or amateur hockey combined here. And in that tournament, the U18 tournament, 8 points in 7 games played for Ryder Ritchie. Very impressive. He is a right winger who has a great shot, but is very great two-way ability, plays a good defensive style of hockey, and his skating is beautiful. In a bunch of other people's rankings, they have him a little bit higher, but I see it very spread out here. In the EliteProspects.com ranking, he's 22nd. In the TS in Bob McKenzie's ranking 21, but in Craig Button it's 32. So kind of all over the place for Ryder Ritchie. I have him in the back half of the first round, slipping a little bit from his projection, but I do think that this will be a fantastic forward. Ryder Ritchie on the right hand side will be number 30, going right into number 29. It is Dean Letourneau. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. From the St. He played in the St. Andrews College. He is a prospect from Canada, from Braeside, Ontario. I got that correct, I hope. He's also kind of all over the place. He is a center prospect, however. So the center prospect going to the Dallas Stars, I think, would be very good for them. They have a lot of young wingers that play off of each other very well. Adding a good center, I think, would be very important for them. And I think this one can be very good here. This year, in the U18 AAA, he absolutely lit it up. But, take with that what you will. He did play 2 games in the USHL for the Sioux Fall Stampede. No goals in 2 games played, -1 rating, but getting acclimated into a USHL, which is a little bit more professional than AAA. Of course it is. But in AAA, absolutely lit it up. 127 points in 56 games played, 61 goals and 66 assists, both a goal and an assist above point per game. Very, very impressive. What he was able to do in AAA, absolutely lighting up. In the playoffs in AAA, he had 8 points in 3 games played. That's ridiculous. This is going to be a good player if he could continue that flow. He is my number 29 player in this mock draft, going to the Dallas Stars here. And then number 28, it is Adam Jiricek, brother of Columbus Blue Jackets prospect David Jiricek. He is currently playing for the Cleveland Monsters of the Blue Jackets AHL system, and now Adam Jiricek has a chance to be drafted here. I have him going 28th to the Calgary Flames via Vancouver Canucks pick. Of course, that was traded to the Calgary Flames in the Elias Lindholm trade, if I'm not mistaken. And who I have going there is Adam Jiricek. Adam Jiricek is above a lot of people's rankings than he is on mine. And I really like Adam Jiricek because of his brother David Jiricek is a Blue Jackets prospect. And, of course, I am from Columbus and root for the Blue Jackets. But for Adam Jiricek, he's not been able to get it done in his time in Czechia. He has this entire year, he has 5 points total in 42 professional games played this year. There is a bug on my screen. Sorry, that's why I'm a little distracted. But 5 points in 42 games played on the year. He is a defenseman, but I think it is very. I'm a little bit out on on Adam Jiricek because of that. But a lot of people like him. Consolidated ranking has him at 19. Elite Prospects have him at 28, right where I have him. But Bob McKenzie has him at 14. Craig Button has him at 24. THN has him at 12. Chris Peters has him at 15. So kind of all over the place. NHL Central Scouting has him at number 4 of EU skaters, which is way above where I do have him. So we will see where he goes. But for me, I think he does fall a little bit. I saw him at really the highest on mock drafts around that teens range, kind of 14 through 17. But I have him slipping a little bit, going to the Calgary Flames at 28th because of his kind of lackluster offensive production this year. And I think that will force a lot of GMs to be a little bit scared away from Adam Jiricek. But next, we're going to go for Yegor Surin. This is a forward out of, see if I can pronounce this right, Loko Yaroslav. I believe I pronounced that right. It is an MHL team in Russia who he played for in the 2023-2024 season. He had a pretty great season. Of course, this is the tier below the KHL in Russia that you see the professional players playing in. 52 points in 42 games played is very great. One thing that scares me for Jaeger a little bit, 108 penalty minutes in those 42 games played. What are we doing here? I mean, we're just taking penalties for fun at this point. He has a little bit of flair to him, has a little bit of style to him. He is liked a lot by his teammates, but I bet not liked by the rest of the league. 23 points in 19 games of the postseason of the MHL as well is pretty impressive. The center / right wing prospect, I have him more as a right wing prospect. 6'1", 192 pounds, plays good as center, but I do not like his face-off taking ability as much to take him for a center. But for a winger, he can definitely do a job. He's kind of all over the place in scouting as well. Number 44 in consolidated ranking, 63 in elite prospect, 43 in Bob McKenzie, 33 in Craig Button. I do like him a lot more than the next guy because he did play at that MHL level, which is a step below the KHL, which the KHL is one of the best professional hockey leagues in the world. So he does get that. He has that professional experience under his belt more than the next guy. So Jaeger Søren will be going 27th to the Carolina Hurricanes, who definitely could use some more offensive production because their defense is really great. Next, it will be JioSaavn Wallines. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's a Swedish name. They definitely, I definitely could be wrong, but I have him going 26th to the Montreal Canadiens via the Winnipeg Jets pick. This could be very good for the Montreal Canadiens. Getting the Swedish defenseman, a little bit smaller in stature, but their entire team is kind of big a little bit. Juraj Slafkovsky is a bigger player. Dennis Rainbow, however you pronounce the defenseman that they took last year's name. This could add a little bit more to that back end. A little bit smaller in stature, 6 feet. I don't like it as much. 183 pounds, but could be a good left-sided defenseman for them. He has that offensive production in the Sweden U18 International League. He scored 23 points in 28 games played for the Swedish national team. 42 points in 43 games on his club team. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. It's the Lakers. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that first half of that name. But JioSaavn Wallines going to the Montreal Canadiens could help that back defense a lot because they definitely need it. Next, 25, Jet Lushenko is my next prospect to go from the Guelph Storm. This center prospect could be very important for the Ottawa Senators, who would probably like a defenseman at this position, but I don't have that many defensemen that I like taking this high. I didn't think that it was good to take Leo this high, so I went with Jet Lushenko for the Ottawa Senators, as he was a little bit falling off from a lot of people's projections. Craig Button has him at 20. McKean's Hockey has him at 21. Sportsnet has him all the way up to 12. So wide range. This is what this entire draft class can be. It's very wide. But this center prospect at 5'11", 183, he could definitely do a job. In Guelph, in the OHL, he played very well. 74 points in 68 games played. 54 assists is very great too. In the Canada U18 team, he had 7 points in 7 games played. So very impressive what Jet Lushenko was able to do this year and making the most of his draft eligible year. Moving along, it's Tarek Parasik going 24th to the Colorado Avalanche. The right winger from Prince George had 43 goals in 68 games for 105 points in the WHL. Very impressive what he was able to do. 43 goals in 68 games is nothing to scoff at. So Tarek Parasik goes number 24 in this mock draft, going to the Colorado Avalanche. And then next, 23rd, will be Nikita Artamonov, 23rd to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Nikita Armatov is the winger prospect from the KHL, and I do love the KHL prospects because it makes it a little bit simpler because it is very comparative to NHL in scoring. And if you're able to score in the KHL, you will be able to score in the NHL. 23 points in 54 games for Nikita is very impressive. A lot of players find it very hard to score in the KHL, not Nikita. He does get 10 points in 11 playoffs games for an MHL team. I believe he was probably sent down for that playoff run. Scoring 10 points in 11 games there is very impressive for Nikita Artamanov, who is my 23rd prospect going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who could help out their forward group. 22nd would be Cole Hudson. Cole Hudson going to the Nashville Predators. This defensive prospect would be very great for the Nashville Predators. Left defenseman from the United States developmental program. 51 games this season, scored 15 goals, 36 points, 4 a point per game on the national team development program. It is a little bit easier to score for this national team. However, as a defenseman, getting a point per game is so impressive. So I really like Cole Hudson's game. I have him going 22nd to the Nashville Predators. And then moving on from him, last but surely not least, it's Sasha Boiver. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I've been trying to work on it. Sasha Boiver, I think. He is committed to the University of North Dakota, where I bet he will be playing next year. But in the USHL, he scored 68 points. He had 68 points in 61 games played for the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Very impressive, was the assistant captain for that team, which is even more impressive. I think this would be a great get for the Los Angeles Kings, who I have taken him at 21. So that'll wrap it up for my first edition for my 2024 mock draft. The segment went a little bit long, but I love talking about prospects. This is one of my passions in sports analysts and writing, so I talk about it a little bit more than others. So Sasha Boiver is 21. We'll wrap up this segment for the 2024 mock draft part 1. When I come back, we will be talking about Jim Nill and his win for NHL GM of the Year and all the moves that got him to that point.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We are back with our fourth segment of the night, talking about Jim Nill and his win as NHL General Manager of the Year. Very impressive. This is the Stars General Manager. This is the team he built to get them all the way to the Western Conference Finals, only being put out by the Edmonton Oilers, and it's the Edmonton Oilers, so cut him a little bit of slack there. Very impressive what he's been able to do, the roster he has been able to assemble. But the biggest part of Jim Nill and the roster he was able to assemble has been through the draft, really. They put a lot of focus in the draft, and they have hit on a lot of players mid in the first round and late in the first round. Wyatt Johnson was selected 23rd overall in the 2021 NHL draft. He has been absolutely amazing, led the Stars in goals at 32 this year. And he was third in points at 65 for the Dallas Stars. Very impressive what Wyatt Johnson has been able to do at such a young age. Logan Stankoven was the second-round pick in the 2021 draft. This was the 47th overall pick. He has been fantastic this year as well. He had goals in 3 straight games from February 26th to February 29th and was the 5th Stars rookie in the past 5 years to record a 3-game goal streak. Logan Stankoven really came alive in the playoffs as well, led the playoffs in rookie scoring, and then he also he also put together a fantastic roster that has seen Jason Robertson really flourish, that has seen there was a bug, that has seen Joe Pavelski be able to be very comfortable on this team. But it's also trades for Jim Neal. Looking at his trade history, he got Evgeny Dadonov for Denis Gurianov at 50% retained at the deadline last year. That proved to be a very good. That proved to be a very important pick, as Evgeny Dadonov has been a mainstay in this Dallas Stars forward group for the last 2 years. He has also been able to get. He got Max Domi last year for Anton Khudobin. That was a really good get for the Dallas Stars at the time of that deadline. He played a very key role for the Dallas Stars in last year's playoff run. And now, of course, Max Domi did leave them for free agency, but you can't win them all. And then it was a great trade for Christopher Tanev this year, who was a very mainstay in that forward group. But for this team, he put together a very impressive forward group. And we talk about the mix of veteran and young guys in this team. Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, and Tyler Seguin. That first line has a young guy, has a 26, 27-year-old, and then has Tyler Seguin, who is a veteran. Mason Marchment, Matt Duchene, Joe Pavelski. That would probably be your most veteran line. Joe Pavelski, of course, retiring. He won't be there next year. But that third line, Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnson, Logan Stankoven, is such an exciting line. Whenever Wyatt Johnson and Logan Stankoven are on the ice together, they play very well, and they did play very well together this entire year. So, impressive line right there. And then it's Maverick Bourque, Sam Steele, Evgeny Dadonov for the fourth line. That's probably projecting out next year, but Sam Steele and Evgeny Dadonov playing off each other was very good. And then on the back end, he's put together a very great defensive core. Chris Tanev has been a great mainstay of this defensive core for the Dallas Stars. You have Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen on that top line. That was such a fantastic top line for the Dallas Stars, with Miro Heiskanen being a very impressive very, very impressive defenseman for the Dallas Stars. Thomas Harley, Chris Tanev, Ryan Sutter, and Alex Petrovich are the ones that make up the rest of that top six. Thomas Harley was a fantastic get. I believe that was the 2020. I want to say that was the 2021 draft as well for Thomas Harley. So a very great draft that was for the Dallas Stars and for Jim Nill. And then all of these played together for a fantastic special teams. And then Jake Ottinger is a fantastic goalie that they saw come into his own right through Jim Neal's general management. But for the Dallas Stars, known team to not really be a perennial winner, has been put into a position where they win a lot of games and were fantastic throughout the regular season. So for Jim Neal winning this award, it absolutely makes sense and it's absolutely deserving. His signings and free agencies of the past few years and everything that he does, this is now his second General Management of the Year award awarded to Jim Neal. Over Jim Neal's tenure that stretches back to 2013, if I'm not mistaken. They are 455, 301, 107. They made the playoffs in 7 of those seasons in 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 19, 20, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And he received his first nomination for GM of the Year in 2016. So, long time coming here. He is a 2-time award winner of this one. And the NHL has been rolling out these awards kind of staggering off of each other. So, whenever there is an award that gets announced, of course, I'm going to share with you this one. Very impressive, Jim Nill. What the team he has been able to build has warranted this. And the organization that he's been able to build warrants this as well. From head coach all the way down. The Dallas Stars have one of the best organizations in hockey for a reason, and it's a large part due to this man here at the top here. So that'll wrap it up talking about Jim Neal winning his second in a row NHL General Manager of the Year. When I come back from my fourth and final break of the night, we will be talking about predictions for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're here with our fifth and final segment of the night, the Stanley Cup Finals. Game 3 predictions, what this game is going to look like, and who's going to be able to take the win here of the Stanley Cup Finals, or of this Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, not the full Stanley Cup Finals. I believe my prediction for the overall Stanley Cup Finals was Panthers in 6. I think it's looking pretty good. I think the Panthers have been playing fantastic hockey. Will it continue in this Game 3? Well, when we look at the lines, and I think this is what we have to go off right now, the betting lines, it does have the Edmonton Oilers as the favorite, minus 135. The implied odds of minus 135 is 57.4%, if I'm not mistaken. So 57.4% of the time, Vegas has the Edmonton Oilers winning this game, and I think I definitely agree with them. I believe that the Edmonton Oilers definitely need this one and will be playing like that, like their entire season is on the line. Because truly it is, their entire season is on the line tomorrow night in this Game 3, and we're going to see how it plays out. But for the Edmonton Oilers, their line combinations, as I mentioned earlier, it's the same first line with Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Zach Hyman staying on that first line. It's been working throughout this entire season, so they're going to stick with it, and I think that's the right decision. Ryan McLeod jumps up to the second line for the Edmonton Oilers. Goes Leon Draisaitl, Dylan Holloway, Ryan McLeod now for this second line. The third line for the Edmonton Oilers is Matthias Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Evander Kane out there on the right wing. However, Evander Kane is listed as a game time decision for tomorrow night. So we'll see if he is able to go. If he is unable to go, I don't know who would replace them. I don't know who they have scratched in their forward group. I will definitely look into that. But by the time Friday rolls around, you guys would already know who replaced him if he does not be able to go. But for the Edmonton Oilers, they are sticking with the same defensive pairings from Game 2. They saw something they liked. Cody Ceci remains as a scratch for them, and Philip Broberg will come into that second defensive pairing. And Darnell Nurse does go down to the third with Vincent Desharnais there on his right side. So the lines change up a little bit for the Edmonton Oilers, but not a lot. And for the Florida Panthers, of course, they're going to stick with the lines that have been working. However, the biggest story here for the Florida Panthers is, in the case that Alexander Barkov cannot go, what happens? Well, Anton Lundell has had a very, very impressive and strong Stanley Cup Finals to this point. Does he jump Sam Bennett becoming a first-line center? I think maybe not. I think they do go for Sam Bennett going to that first-line center spot. Then you move up Anton Lundell, and Kevin Stenlund moves up to the third-line center. But they could definitely go with Anton Lundell if they want to keep the second line intact. Of course, the second line led to 2 goals on the night against the Edmonton Oilers on Game 2. So you could definitely go with that, because you saw that it worked with Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, and Evan Rodriguez. Evan Rodriguez, of course, getting his 2 goals on the night. And then that third line, Eetu Luostarinen and Vladimir Tarasenko on the wings. Who steps into that spot? Kevin Stenlund is the fourth line center right now, who could definitely move up. I know Kyle Okposo has played center, who is currently the fourth line right wing, so he could step up into that spot. Whatever they decide to go with in the event that Alexander Barkov cannot go, it's going to be a big time decision, as they are the player that's going to need to kind of play against Connor McDavid for most of the night. And Alexander Barkov is the most perfect player to be up for that task. So we'll see if, whether it's Anton Lundell or it's Sam Bennett, if the other guy will be up for the task. Going to the defensive core, of course, it's going to remain the same as it has throughout this entire postseason. Forsling on the left, Ekblad on the right for the first, Nico Mikkola left, Brandon Montour on the right for the second, OEL on the left, Dmitry Kulikov on the right for the third defensive pairing. It's been working for the Florida Panthers. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they are truly keeping this core intact, because it is clearly their strong suit and probably the best defensive core in hockey right now. So the Florida Panthers have a chance to take a 3-0 lead, but will they? going into the predictions here, I have the Edmonton Oilers beating the Florida Panthers 5-3 in game number 3. I think the Edmonton Oilers get really zoned in due to the crowd being at their back. I think it's going to play such a huge factor. In Rogers Place, it is one of the biggest home ice arena factors in the NHL. It truly is. You saw it in their second round series against the Vancouver Canucks, how much it helped them when they went back to the when they went back to the Rogers Place, and it truly does help them so much. And when they played against the Dallas Stars at the Rogers Place, I think they won 2 games at the Rogers Place. They went 2-1 at the Rogers Place in that series as well. For the Edmonton Oilers, they play so well at home, and in these postseasons they played so well at home. And the Florida Panthers are one of the better away teams that the NHL has to offer. So we will definitely have a matchup here. The Florida Panthers had their flights delayed a little bit going to Edmonton. It was weird. I think it was yesterday that they had like a bunch of flight problems and they couldn't get out for like 6 hours from Florida because of weather in Edmonton, and they finally did. I think they got down at around like 11 p.m. or midnight local time, so maybe that will add a little bit, but they did get there in time for morning skate, and everything looks all good for the Florida Panthers. These guys are professionals. I don't anticipate that affecting it too much, but 5-3 is my final for this game. Might be a little bit out there due to how well Sergei Bobrovsky is playing as of late. Of course, you got to talk about it. Letting in only 1 goal of the Stanley Cup Finals. He is only one of, I believe it was 7 goaltenders in NHL history that have been able to get through the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals, giving up 1 goal or fewer in the games combined. So very impressive stat. I saw like Jacques Plante was on that list. Martin Brodeur was on that list. Just, legendary goaltenders that you expect on a list like that. And Sergei Bobrovsky put himself right up there with all of them. So very impressive stuff from Sergei Bobrovsky. But I think this is the game that they finally figure it out. Having that crowd factor will be so important when they get their puck on their stick. It's just that little bit more adrenaline, a little bit more motivation. And then I think they're going to be able to figure out Bobrovsky. It's the high blocker side. I'm telling you, I'm giving you the blueprint here. Just shoot at that high blocker. Of course, it's easier said than done. When you have these fantastic defensemen that the Florida Panthers have just swarming you right when you get the puck. But for the Edmonton Oilers, this is the game that they need to win. If they're able to come away with a 2-1 series instead of a 3-0 series, they really have a chance here. And I think they have a great chance at making some noise here in Game 3 and Game 4. These are 2 must-win games. Going down 3-0 or 3-1 in this series will spell death, I still believe, for the Edmonton Oilers. This Florida Panthers team does not give up leads, and it's just such a good core. It's such a demoralizing team as well at points. So if there's games to win, it's going to need to be this Game 3 and Game 4. They could get a little bit of advantage in this Game 3 with Alexander Barkov if he is unable to go. But I am still fully anticipating Alexander Barkov playing on Thursday night for the Florida Panthers. I can't wait to talk about that game after it plays out on Friday with all of you guys. So that'll wrap it up for my Wednesday GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all for your support. If you would like to follow the show or like it or subscribe, it would mean so much to us. Any support really does mean the world here, guys. You could also follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram if you would like. And thank you all once again for your support, and all of you guys have a fantastic and wonderful night.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that